The DIMP Digital Network presents the DDT WrestleCast.
Hello, Apps here from the DIMP Digital Network, and welcome to another edition of the DDT WrestleCast. On this edition, we are here to review WWE Money in the Bank 2020, which took place this past weekend and was broadcast on Sunday, the 10th of May. I am once again joined by the main man himself, Paper. How's it going?
Hello. Yeah, good. Good to be back again, talking about another WWE pay-per-view.
Well,
the regular occurrence now.
It is, but that will change in the coming weeks with Double or Nothing coming up, so AEW will get a bit of a look in. The true fans are wondering where we were last Friday, and it's twofold really. One, we broadcast, we drop these every Friday if we can, mostly. But if there is a bank holiday, then I do not do a podcast for that week, so I didn't communicate that. So last Friday was a very rare Friday bank holiday here in the UK for May. I don't remember the last time we had that, Paper. I don't know if that's me. Normally
Easter.
Yeah, but I mean in May. I can't remember the last year we had a Friday one. What's that about?
I don't think we've ever done it before. It's always just been a Monday, but because VE Day this year, the government thought, you know what would be really good? Everyone could go out and celebrate in the streets and have street parties. Everyone can get, their neighbours, have drinks and celebrate VE Day 75th anniversary. We'll move it the first Monday of May, which is always a bank holiday in the UK, to it was the second Friday. And guess what? We were all stuck indoors with coronavirus, and there was no street party. Well, there was street parties. We saw our parents. Our parents were out fucking canoodling.
They were out close, and they should have been.
Sue, Keith, Tina, Gary. We got picture evidence of that.
Yeah, they're claiming it was at a distance. Well, it was, but I don't know. I wouldn't be doing that, especially at their age. But that's up to them at this stage. So anytime there's a bank holiday on a Friday, we won't have an episode. And really, that only happens at Easter usually. But this wasn't. This was a bit of a unique situation this year in the UK for May, and obviously Christmas. Probably shut down for a few weeks anyway. But I didn't communicate that, so I should have done on the socials. So apologies for that. Even if it wasn't a bank holiday, there would have been no episode because I had to go in the hospital and have a rotten appendix removed, so there was no way of recording from the hospital. I was in no fit state to do that, still feeling the effects of that now. So again, if you think he sounds like he's off his game, there's the ready-made excuse. So
I haven't got you on this, to be honest. It's only because I've been pestering. I think that this happened. I thought to be honest, I thought you were going to kill out on this week. I thought he's not going to do it. No. But the DDT podcast, this is what the fans are getting. Through pain, too many chair shots to that liver area.
We know that the wrestling business is a tough business to be in. So you've got the guys out there on the road putting their bodies on the line. The least we can do here is put our bodies on the line when possible. But to be honest, it's not that difficult, and it's a good test to actually see how my recovery's going. But so there are two reasons why there wasn't a podcast last week. One legitimate, one obviously not planned, but just keep that in mind. Any bank holidays on a Friday in the UK, there will be no podcast, and I'll communicate that. To be honest, I was expecting to be doing some solo podcasts until you either watched Royal Rumble 92, which is in the chamber, ready to be watched and reviewed in the coming weeks. But you text me and was like, podcast for Money in the Bank, I'll watch it this weekend, blah blah blah, this last week. And I was like, I can't believe after WrestleMania he's coming back for more modern day WWE and putting himself through this. I was genuinely shocked that you would give up time to watch another 2020 WWE pay-per-view. Was the glutton of punishment for WrestleMania not quite enough?
I tell you, it's this free WWE Network pass I've got for the 3 months.
Yeah.
I need to use it. So these will stop soon. By soon I mean within the next 6 weeks. So we might get one more pay-per-view in, and it's over. So if there's someone from the WWE Network listening and they want to donate us some free network passes, we're then committed to doing more podcasts on the WWE. But otherwise, yeah, it's not going to happen too much anymore after these ones. So I thought, the podcast is in its infancy, should I say? And so let's commit to it a bit and try and get some content out there and put myself through some miserable pain of watching. Well, actually, this wasn't too bad because it was only 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
So actually, that when you said that to me, that sold it to me straight away. And to be fair, I was quite interested in Money. But it's Money in the Bank's. I always think it's a novel idea, and I also wanted to see how they would do it with the briefcase on the roof and all that was being promoted before. So I was sort of sold in a little bit of that. Not that I knew much of the storylines, as I said, going in, but just to see how it came out, I was interested.
Yeah, it was obviously we know of what's going on there. There's some creative juices flowing on both AEW and WWE side. More so on the WWE side, they're definitely pushing the envelope when it comes to cinematic stuff and whatnot, and be interesting to see whether AEW follows suit in that vein. But yeah, when I switched this on Monday morning, I was so pleased. I couldn't believe my luck when it said 2 hours 35 minutes or whatever it was, because I was already expecting at least 3.5. So to have a whole hour of my life given back to me mentally was a big plus. I still couldn't watch it in one sitting, but that happens sometimes with busyness. But it being 2.5 hours, I was like, this should be the norm, in my opinion. Like, you have maybe a couple of events that go over 3 hours, like your big 1 or 2 events, like your WrestleManias, your SummerSlams, maybe your Royal Rumbles and Survivor Series, so you have 4 maximum WWE. But their run-of-the-mill monthly stuff, 2.5 hours, I think is perfect.
Yeah, it was. To be fair, I sat through it in one sitting. To be fair, you had the appendix issue, so maybe you probably weren't feeling. I was going to say probably it wasn't probably just the WWE causing you pain. It was probably actually your lack of appendix.
Didn't cure it. Though, I'll tell you that much. Normally, right, keep yourself entertained so the pain's not there. Nope, felt worse. I reckon watching this.
Yeah, that's what. But 2.5 hours, I think, was an ideal time frame. It was enough for me. If I was getting zoned out or I was starting to be bored by something, I knew it wasn't that much longer. Whereas the WrestleMania, I just knew, I was like, well, there's another 5.5 hours to go this year. So this wasn't so painful from the start. Now getting into some of the matches, which we'll get into. But we shall talk about that, I guess.
Yes. There was no real changes production-wise that I noticed, unless you picked up on anything. But I did want to check in because you've seen now how the WWE operates. They've got their commentators at ringside, no one else. And then we've seen what AEW have been doing since the lockdown restrictions and that have come in over in the US. They put wrestlers at ringside and seem to do quite a different approach. Does a lack now watching, say, Dynamite for the last 6 weeks with a little bit of interaction or noise from the wrestlers or the extras at the ringside, does going back watching like an empty arena every match with just the commentary and just hearing the fucking wrestlers talking or screaming or grunting, does that play? Do you notice that more, having watched a bit more AEW in this current climate with the way they're doing it?
Yeah, to be fair, I my bias is towards AEW, especially around. I do enjoy the wrestlers around the edge of the ring. It adds a new bit of context into it, and it sparks things up that you are not necessarily there. Just little things that can happen from time to time, which is like, oh, that's interesting. A slight different angle. Like AEW have had this whole thing about Pineapple Pete and Jericho building over the last couple of weeks, and just this random jobber type character they've been in the crowd. And like you can have little things, and you can still let little bits of story go on in the crowd. Like I saw it would have been when this comes out, not the last Dynamite, but the one before. At the very start, I saw Jimmy Havoc give Kip a face mask, the type of thing they wear, because obviously they become a tag team. But they can do little things like that in the crowd, which is just nice, and it's like little things and stuff like that they don't have in the WWE. Now, what I do like in the WWE is that they have the commentators there, and they can interact with the talent and the athletes, and I do like that. I'm not keen on WWE's consistent changing of commentators from match to match. I'm not. That's winding me up a little bit, because you get some poor commentator, and I don't even understand why they're changing it up, or what's they're bringing to. It doesn't feel like it's a guest commentator or anything like that. They went, I think, from this one, they some show doing them. And I was like, why is he there? That I wasn't too keen, but there was some interesting parts which we'll come into later, where there was clear communication between the commentators and the in-ring talent, which I really like, and I think would, like AEW, they have Jericho and Tony Schiavone, in a room out back somewhere, what it feels like, away from it all, whereas it'd be quite nice to see them at the side, because and see them just doing a bit of interaction, even if they're kept at a massive distance, even if they put them behind a bloody perspex screen or something as a joke, and you can still see them. Sometimes actually seeing them when the camera pans is I enjoy.
Definitely taking different approaches, that's for sure. And I think my bias is towards the way AEW are doing it, just simply because it's nice to have some sort of feedback when a move happens, like a chop will take place and you can just hear a woo or an or an ah. It's just even how subtle it is, it does make a difference, because the thing that at one point I almost had to turn it off halfway through the Money in the Bank match, is because the 2.5 hours, all I heard for every match was just screaming and grunting and because there's no other noise going on, so it feels like the wrestlers felt they have to make, or either they don't, either they're exaggerating it, or just that you can hear it clearer because there's no other noise to distract you. But the women's matches, for example, they're just screaming constantly, and it was really starting to grind my gears. I only had to walk away, but I managed to get through it. Anyway, let's get into the event itself, otherwise we'll be here longer than the fucking event, which will be a real achievement if we manage to go over 2.5 hours. So we kick off with the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match. Got New Day, Lucha House Party, Miz and Morrison v Forgotten Sons. Ran for 12 minutes. SmackDown Tag Team Championship. On the commentator front, they changed commentators because there's Raw and SmackDown athletes. So if it's a SmackDown match, they will put the SmackDown team in. Samoa Joe seems to just do it when he's injured for Raw, so he just sort of dips in and out. But yeah, that's the reason for that. This was a SmackDown match in itself. To be honest, when this match kicked off, I was quite into this. It wasn't the best match that we've ever seen in the world, but I think me and you always look for a decent opener, and I felt like this sort of fit the bill here.
I would agree. As far as I'd say, it's probably my second favourite match or fight of the card, though I wouldn't score it overly highly.
No.
So it was okay. It wasn't like a shitter. I'm getting annoyed, and I've only watched now 2 WWE recent pay-per-views, like the one at WrestleMania for the same belt, which was a singles match for a tag match, which I didn't get. Yeah. Then obviously the belts have clearly changed hands
in a singles match.
In a singles match, which was crap, and then they've done this awful stipulation where they've got the 4 teams and only 2 teams are allowed in at a given time, and I'm just getting annoyed. Like there is no, and I get why what they call the Revival, whatever they are, have left the WWE. Revolt, that's it. Because it just doesn't feel there's any integrity to the tag team belts, and that's what annoyed me with this match. It wasn't that the match the fight was poor.
No,
some people came out really well. They all came out. I'm really impressed by John Morrison. Like I thought he was the standout in this the fight at WrestleMania for this belt, and I thought he was the standout in this fight as well. Like he just seems so slick when he's doing some of these moves, and it just seems to pull off really well. He seems to have really he's in amazing shape by the looks of things, and he can pull off some fantastic moves. So for me, he was sort of stood out. But once again, it was just, I don't know, it just sort of felt like it was a good match. It was okay, but it just wasn't, I wasn't going to write home about it.
No, agree with that. Yeah, John Morrison, I really like John Morrison as well. And he's been around the block a bit as well. He started at WWE. I think he was originally on Tough Enough. I don't know if you remember when they did that, like the reality series where they it's almost like the Ultimate Fighter, but for WWE, where they would kind of have an actual competition to hire people. And he was on one of the scenes of that. I can never remember which one it was. Came in as Johnny Nitro. But before this, he was at Impact, so formerly TNA, our old stomping grounds. And to be honest, I thought there was a chance that he might go to AEW because he was a free agent for a while, but got snapped up by the WWE, and certainly is I think an asset to this tag team division. But the New Day retained the belts anyway. The Big E gave Metallica a big ending, as it's called, for the 1, 2, 3 in 12 minutes. I agree, nothing to write home about, but not a complete disgrace either way. R-Truth versus what we thought was going to be MVP. And then Bobby Lashley come out and said, no, I'm going to be doing that. First off, what do you think about R-Truth and his character? Because he's obviously a complete comedy character, where he's either delusional or maybe even mentally ill. I don't know what the actual official narrative is for him, but he just don't get what's going on, does he? He's in his own little world.
Yeah, I quite like him as a character, and he's been around the block for now a long. Actually, all the guys that were fighting in this match have been proper old school I remember MVP back in the day, and they've all left WWE at some point and come back. And I quite like R-Truth, and he's definitely one of these characters that suffer without having an audience there. Yeah. Not that it was too much for like him coming out doing that entrance that he does where he raps and sings and stuff like that. That works amazing when there's a crowd there and they're sort of, he's doing the thing and they're screaming back. I felt like there, especially I think it was right at the very end where he was like saying "what's up" and stuff like that. I was thinking, what's the point? Like, even if you're delusional, it just felt like he was sort of forced to do that rather than, like him coming out to the rap bit at the start was fine, but when it was the bit at the very end of that, I thought, but I as a character, I quite like him. They clearly, they've got him. He's a comedy character, and it is what it is, and you have them in all franchises, and they have their own role, and he's clearly going after the 24/7 belt. Which is effectively a comedy belt. So
Rob's got it.
Exactly, and so it's clearly just he's a nice filler. I think personally, this match and this whole thing is for Raw or SmackDown and not for a pay-per-view. That'd probably be my only sort of comment towards it, because it was just a bit pointless. I was a bit, I didn't quite understand what was going on, and then it happened. I was like, oh, this is the type of shit you'd see, on a Raw, and then that might lead into something or something later. But I didn't get the point why pay-per-views should be about you're building up a storyline, or you're at an extremely interesting point of a storyline, and you want to tell that at the pay-per-view, not just like this randomly happened. I think the only point of it was maybe Bobby Lashley's pissed off. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're right. It's not a pay-per-view match. It was obviously squash for Bobby Lashley, won in under 2 minutes, landed the spear on R-Truth, formerly known as K-Quick back in the day. But yeah, I don't know what that was doing on the pay-per-view, considering they had like a pre-show match between Jeff Hardy and Cesaro. And Cesaro's a really good worker, and it'd been good to see him in a singles match, but that was on the pre-show rather than the main show. Granted, it was a much longer match, but I'd have taken that match instead of this, and the event going a little bit longer. But there you go. What did you think of R-Truth's little promo after this later on in the show, where he's talking about how he beat MVP and that he's lost weight and that he's going to come after Tom Brady for that 24/7 belt?
I think that it's just that comedy element where he's clearly not there. I think what they were. My takeaway from it was that Bobby Lashley hits so hard that it'll knock the stuffing out of your memory and you'll be just a bit, concussed and all that crap. So that was my assumption from it. Though maybe I got the wrong end of the stick.
Yeah, we'll see where that goes for Backlash. Look forward to seeing that really interesting storyline coming to a halt there. We then got Tamina taking on Bayley for the Women's World Championship, or SmackDown Women's title, I should say. I know we've slagged off AEW's women's division quite heavily, and rightly so. This felt like this was like AEW level women's match. I didn't enjoy this one bit, if I'm honest.
And and it's not to put down certain
sexist.
No, I was going to say certain styles of wrestlers, and you usually get this, unfortunately, with the bigger wrestlers. They're just not
sizist.
Sizist.
Running.
They're just maybe not as agile, and so therefore sometimes you just can't as much. I thought it was all right. It went long. It felt like half the time. It felt like Tamara could have just done 5 minutes. Bayley or whatever, and then Bayley just gets via Sasha Banks' help, just gets the quick win and just retains the belt. It didn't probably need to go 10.5 for it. I know what you mean. I saw that, and this was one where I felt is in having the commentators there and the lack of crowd, because you could hear that there was that to and fro between Bayley and the commentary. I still don't really know how to take it. Like at some points I sort of quite liked it, but then also at some points I just felt like saying shut up, this is quite annoying. So it went on a bit too much, but it was definitely more in the old AEW leagues, in that AEW seems to be picking up a little bit at the moment. I'm not saying that they're anywhere near the WWE leagues, but for women. But yeah, this one definitely felt a little bit more at home. I think the problem with, I think maybe the problem with this was that they had some of their better women ready for the Money in the Bank later on, and so he sort of just had to have one there, and they didn't have Becky Lynch there either to have a yeah, exactly. Which
Vince
which we can talk about, I guess, later after the women's Money in the Bank one, because that's the interesting point.
That's true.
But yeah, it was interesting, and you know what, this is and we're on a second title match, and it's the second title retain on the pay-per-view. So yeah, it was a bit meh.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I thought was stupid was like, Tamina seemingly had it won with like a running Samoan drop, like as part of a finisher. Sasha got in the ring to distract, and then Tamina, like a fucking geek, chased after her. And I was like, come on. Like, you can literally win the match now if you pin her, and yet you've got out the ring, run after her, got back in, and then got caught in some stupid fucking cradle crucifix thing and lost. I think if you're a babyface and you're doing that, I've got no sympathy for you. Like, that's just idiocy. But I thought I was watching AEW Dynamite whilst I was watching this. I was like, Jesus, where are we going here? Braun Strowman versus Bray Wyatt. So this is Bray Wyatt, not the Fiend Bray Wyatt. So it's just him in his red top, or his red jumper, which he tucks in, which is an unbelievable fashion statement. Universal title match. We've spoken previously about the belts maybe not meaning too much, but what did you make of this match for one of their top belts in terms of its Bray Wyatt taking on Strowman? I like defense.
Yeah, to be fair, Once, as I mentioned this before, the first one was the match for second title defense, and so going into this match, in my head I thought, well, the title's probably going to switch here because they've not had any title switches yet. But lo and behold, that didn't happen. I don't know if the Bray Wyatt, things. I don't know whether I like it or I don't like it. Some points I think, but some of it I just think. I don't like the entrance music. That's
Do you like
one
the
thing.
puppets?
Coming
up during the match going.
I don't know. I just don't know where I sit with it. The one bit of the kudos that I do give, I did like the bit where the callback to and where Braun put on is it the sheep mask?
Yeah,
that was a nice.
White family.
And yeah, exactly. That was nice.
In the promos leading up to it, did you spot Mr. Brody Lee in the background of any of the promos? He was only in like a couple of the shots, but I noticed Brody Lee was lurking.
I did notice someone. I was trying to figure out who that was. I didn't realise that's Brody Lee.
Yeah,
because there was three of them, wasn't there?
Yeah, you had Harper, Brody Lee, Strowman at one point, and they were all led by Bray when he was a little hillbilly cult bloke. Now he's a little Firefly Funhouse weirdo demon that wears a red jumper and tucks it into his jeans. He looks like shit in that outfit as well. I think he's got such a weird body shape. Like he's really top heavy, which is fine, but he's got these little skinny legs. It looks like you could just knock him a little bit and he'll roll off balance. He looks better, obviously, as the Fiend. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, he definitely looks better. He's got a very odd shape to him, and he just doesn't look like he's going to be a wrestler. He's good. It's just that the gimmick is it's just not. I don't think it's there. I think they could have played. It could have been done so much better. I don't think they need all of the shit that goes with it, and I just hate the music that he comes into. I've said it before, but I say again, it's just really shit. And imagine winning that music.
Exactly, and I'm assuming that this rivalry's going to go on a little bit longer because it looked like
he'll take on the Fiend, won't he? It'll be the Fiend next time that takes on Braun Strowman, not just Bray Wyatt. So he'll transform into the monster bloke.
Yeah,
that's what it'll be.
Yeah.
Do you prefer bog standard Bray Wyatt that you saw here? Because you've not seen an actual Fiend match yet, or do you like the look of what you saw in the Firefly Funhouse with the Fiend character? Because he kind of plays two alter egos in this.
I don't mind the Bray character as he is there. I just don't think he should be wrestling as that character. No. I feel like it's for promos and stuff like that, and then when he comes to the ring, he transforms into the Fiend. That I think would work a lot better.
Well, they normally do that. I don't know why they sometimes decide to go right Bray Wyatt this time. It's like, what?
Yeah, because I think because the whole build up of the whole thing with this fight, the story is basically Strowman rejecting Bray is the outcome of it all. But I think that could have probably been done in a lot of build up and promos and stuff like that, and then it probably got into the match with the Fiend rather than. And I think that you could have got a lot better, or at least in my head. I expected the lights to go out at some point and him to put the mask on and rip off the jumper, and then the Fiend suddenly turns up, because I think that could also work. I just don't think in his current state, and the thing is, and it doesn't help, and this is a lot of characters that I'll say this with the lack of audience there, it just doesn't work as well.
No, it's a struggle to get things going. One thing I noticed before this match, they obviously done the hype package where they were talking about Bray and Braun's history and all that stuff, but before that we had Seth Rollins do a promo talking about all his Monday Night Messiah stuff, and one of the phrases he used was that he wants to remove the burden of the title from Drew McIntyre so that obviously he can have the belt, and he'll remove the burden. In the hype package for this, Bray Wyatt also says to Braun he wants to remove the burden from Braun having the title. I was like, can you not come up with a separate phrase for each belt and stick to it? Why are they using the same fucking idea of fucking removing burdens? It's a championship belt.
So they're just carrying on from WrestleMania where they both had the same finishes for the same belts.
Yeah, well, at least they weren't the two same matches, because Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins for the WWE title was next. and in my view, easily match of the night.
Oh, it was easily a, if we're scoring out of 10, it was an 8+ match. Like, it was.
Maybe this was a crowd, this would have been rocking.
Oh, listen, I feel incredibly sad for. I don't feel sad because he's earning loads of money, but for Drew McIntyre,
and he's Scottish.
He's Scottish. Yeah, that's another reason not to feel sad for him. Is that he would be, he'd be getting so much hype right about now with the crowd. That when he beat Brock Lesnar in the way he did, the way the Seth Rollins match was, it was like the polar opposite to the Brock. It went on long. It was like a 20-odd minute match. It was back and forth consistently, and going into it, 3 belts before, all the 3 belts have been retained, and so you're thinking going into this, they've not swapped a belt. That means surely they're going to swap a belt at some point, because usually every pay-per-view at least one belt will swap. And I'm thinking, oh crikey, is he going to lose it? And there's so many times it was so many close near misses, and so many. I like the whole Seth Rollins stomp and stuff like that. That was a bit of a callback to some of the promo stuff that they've been doing, where he'd stomped on the head, and it just felt like an extremely well choreographed. I can't say the word.
Choreographed.
That's the word I'm looking for. Fight, and just I like the way as well with Drew McIntyre. They're preserving the Claymore, and well, it seems like they are, at least at the moment, where it actually thing, and you're not getting people kicking out left. And the only time it got used, and it was fantastic the way it finished. There's Drew McIntyre, I think it was like the Glasgow headbutt or something like that.
Yeah,
and then
Glasgow kiss.
And then he Glasgow kiss. That's it. And then there was a. Seth Rollins, I can't remember what he did. He did something, and you think, oh crap, what's going on here? And then Drew comes off the ropes and does a Claymore kick really quickly out of nowhere, which I was well in terms of finishes and moves. It just looks and sounds fantastic. It just looks and feels hard, and that's what you want from a finisher. I really enjoyed this match. Watching the pay-per-view was worth it for this one match alone, I'd say.
Yeah, no, it was a really good match. I like the way it built to like a crescendo. The last sort of 5 minutes of it was excellent. And yeah, really good WWE title match. I think my favourite spot was when Drew was on the top rope. Seth knocked him off balance. He kind of fell backwards and got his legs, stuck in the top rope like a tree of woe almost. And then Seth was standing over on his knees, but then Drew sat up and then back suplexed him off the top rope, sort of popped up and did it. I thought that was a really nice spot there. I've not seen that before.
Went flying.
Yeah, he did go flying. Steph's a really good wrestler. He's really good, and so is Drew. So these two in a match was always going to be good. It's just a shame there's no crowd to eat it up. But even without the crowd, it was enjoyable to watch. So easily best match of the night, and it was like that was in its own league really compared to the others. Like the others were maybe a league or even a league below. So well done for those two. I hope they maybe can put on another match in the near future and build to another one, because I think they'll have a good one. What did you think of the handshake at the end? Because we've not been following much of the backstory, but we know enough that the baby face is Drew and the heel is Seth. Seth's this self-proclaimed messiah type figure who wants to rid the burden of the title off of Drew, and yet Drew offers out a hand at the end. I was 100% expecting Seth to just snub it, but he went for the handshake. Yeah,
I don't know what there could be a couple of avenues they're trying to go with it.
It could just be they do it that and then forget about it. WWE like to do things like that, where you think, oh, that's a big moment, and then next week he wraps a fucking chair around his head, and you're like, wow, that's it. Yeah.
I think what would be really, really good. I thought it's like it's going to be a couple of things. It's like it could be just to show, Drew's a real baby face at the moment. He's like this warrior, gentleman type guy, someone that you would get a bit like like the Hound from Game of Thrones when he became like side of the Hound, where he's protective and he'll say good fight and stuff like that, and whether they're going down that route or the other avenue they could be going, and it could be a very nice slight move, is to allow Seth to sort of move away from being a heel and start to say, Monday Night Messiah, and actually him start to sort of follow Drew or something. Like, you could see it that, so you could see Drew as being, this godlike figure. And so actually he could still be the Monday Night Messiah, but he could like worship like Drew or something like that, and so he could sort of turn or they could probably do a nice little mix on that where he does that and Drew rejects it and all that type of stuff. I'm sure there's loads of things they could do with it, but as you said, they'll probably just forget about it and there'll be nothing more than just a handshake.
We then move on to our main event, technically 2 matches because it was a dual Money in the Bank ladder matches. So the setup with this was it's taking place at WWE headquarters, and there was a ring and the briefcases were suspended above the ring as they usually are. This was all on the roof of WWE headquarters. The idea of the match was that the male and female competitors, I guess, brawl all over the headquarters and get to the top of the building as quickly as possible and then get the briefcase like you normally would. As soon as this kind of started and they started lining all the women up on their entrances by that lift, I was like, what are they doing here? Like, you've got Shayna Baszler, who's meant to be this kick-ass, badass MMA fighter. I'm thinking, like, she might get another shot here and get the Money in the Bank and then snatch it off Becky Lynch going forward. But they've got her just sort of standing next to all her opponents, not really batting an eyelid. And the guys start off in the gym, and they're obviously throwing shade at each other left, right and centre. No commentary throughout the match other than the very, very sort of latter part of it. It ran 29 minutes. What's going on with this? What do we think? Is it better or worse than, let's say, the Boneyard and the Firefly Funhouse that we watched at WrestleMania? Because it's a similar sort of thing. It's another cinematic jobby.
I fucking hated it.
Yes.
It is.
Same.
I just in like in my
Can
head,
you like? Is there a possibility that there's any version of these cinematic style matches that you would like? I don't think I would personally. I think even if they do the most amazing cinematic thing in the world, I'm just not going to like it. I just don't enjoy this, and that's why I'm dreading AEW eventually trying to copy this, because I'm going to be like, well, I don't enjoy watching this. Doesn't matter if it's AEW and Jericho. I'm not going to. This is not my jam, really. But is it different for you? Do you think there's something there that you might be able to get sucked into?
No, and the reason I can't get sucked into it is because I know that they can go off and have a cup of tea and then come back and shoot the next scene. And if they don't like the way that scene's gone, let's do that again. And that's, to me, that's not professional wrestling.
The art is lost there, isn't it? Because the art of performance is gone almost.
Exactly, and there's a reason why theatre's still much loved, and and movies do have their own side as well. Like, people like the movies, but people like going to theatre to see something real and real time, and you hear many stories of people going to the theatre where people fluff their lines and stuff like that, and they make a joke about it and they carry on. And I think sometimes there's some real art in a performer, is to be able to do these things live or in one take and just go with it. And when things go wrong, and seeing how they cope with that. And there's nothing wrong with something going wrong as long as it's not disastrous. Yeah. And something turning and making it what it is. And I just don't like the fact that I know they may as well make, I think if they're going to do stuff like this, they need to make their own little, part of the franchise where it's, cinematic WWE or something like that, where they've got their own, and they could very easily then have a load of the old school wrestlers, like people like Stone Cold or Mick Foley, who come back and do stuff because it's all cinematic and they, it's all safe, and so they're not going to get hurt and stuff like that. And that'd be cool, and that would have its different audience. But I just don't like the way that they're using it for these belts, and I know these weren't for belts, but it just feels like it takes the professional wrestling away from it, and it's just not for me. And it is for a lot of people. Do like it, clearly.
Oh, I love it.
A lot of people were spunking over WrestleMania. So, but it's for me personally. It's not my cup of tea. And actually, one of the reasons I tuned in, so I was not excited about Money in the Bank, but I wanted to watch it, was because in my head I thought, they're going to do something similar, like the Randy Orton Edge match, where even if the Randy Orton Edge wasn't one take, it definitely felt like it was one take. To a certain extent, and that's sort of what I wanted, where the cameras are running to keep up with the wrestlers, and the wrestlers are still going. It doesn't feel like the wrestlers should worry about the cameras if the camera missed it, and that was sort of like proper, like that was like Attitude Era, I guess, where when they did something backstage, it was always sort of the cameras were trying to run to keep up, and the performers were still going, and that's what I liked. And so and actually even a hint back to AEW Dynamite last week, where they had the street fight with Matt Hardy, Omega, Sammy Guevara and Jericho. Like that was all one take. And I thought that's what I want to see from those type of matches. I don't want to see let's stop this, that's a cut, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, that street fight was really good. It was wacky as shit, but it was entertaining to watch, for sure. What was the standout sort of worst spot for you that you disliked the most? Because there was almost every 5 minutes I was kind of like, I've got to roll my eyes at this. But was there anything in particular that you just thought, fuck me, that's the worst of the lot? And it could even be the finish, the fact that the fucking briefcase slips out of AJ's hands and ends up in Otis's hands. Which I was like, right.
There was lots to be fair, like, it was one of those ones I not tuned out of, but I did, because I wasn't as into it. But there was loads of parts that I was thinking, and so I remember being at one point looking back up, and there was a food fight going on. I was like, what the fuck's going on here? I didn't like the bit where Asuka, is that how you pronounce it, jumps off the banister onto all five of them at the very start and runs into the elevator. I thought, that's not, that felt a bit shit.
In the elevator for about 15 minutes. I don't know. Yeah. No wonder. Apparently, they're moving out of that. Peel did eventually WWE. I'm not surprised if it takes 15 minutes to go up 3 floors. Get onto your fucking landlord and say, right, this needs to be sorted. But what I didn't get about that was Oscar done that, splashed them all, got in the lift, got away, and the women were all concerned about catching Oscar, like finding where Oscar had gone. I was like, just go up to the roof and get the fucking briefcase. If Oscar's gone to floor 3 to go and have a food fight, you could ignore her. Like, the whole point of this is to get to the roof, not to chase someone around, because they've not physically got anything that you need to get off them. You just need to get your ass to the very top, grab the fucking briefcase, and then Robert's your father's brother. So you have plenty of things like that. I mean, AJ Styles at one point decided that going after the briefcase was a lost cause and started trying to chase Rey Mysterio around because he kicked him in that room with left him underneath those weights that he could clearly just slide out of.
But that's the other thing. He was clearly, the whole point was he was stuck under those weights. Yeah. And the camera disappears and it goes off, and you think, well, AJ Styles is now out of it. But suddenly it just reappears. It's like, how did he get out of it? If the whole point was he was stuck under it, did the Big Show turn up and just pick him up off of him? And so I don't know how he got out of it, and this is the problem with the cinematic. They can just leave holes. It felt like some people just didn't turn up at the roof. It's in the women's fight, and I don't know why. I might have missed it, but some of them just didn't turn up. And they're like,
one of them slipped over and hit her head on the floor because someone was mopping the floors.
Yeah, and then she just didn't turn up on the roof. I thought at least they'll all end up there at some point, even if she gets up there late. And then, I don't know, Corbin turned, what is it? Well, that was another thing I didn't get. Corbin threw a weight at the mirror, and he just looks all really shocked. And I thought, is this going to be like some sort of thing, bad luck, breaking a mirror and stuff like that? And then it just carried on. I don't know why he was looking so shocked if they didn't make anything of it.
No, I don't know whether he was scared of the bad luck or just that he knew Vince McMahon would fine him for that. But either way, it was stupid. Like a lot of this match was. Did you see was you paying attention when Vince appeared on screen and he was in his office? How fucking old did Vince look? Like, I know it's been probably 20 years since you last saw him properly, performing, but fuck me, he looks haggard, doesn't he?
Looks like he's working out a lot, injecting a lot of type Botox type stuff, but also getting old, and sometimes you just can't fight it. It feels like he's trying to fight it. It's not quite working for him, poor fella.
This is all he's doing though. So we say poor fella, and yet he's subjecting us to this.
Yeah, he's on his billions of pounds, and he's just loving life. But it was a strange. Yeah, I did notice that. Didn't Stephanie McMahon turn up at one point when she put the Money in the Bank down and stuff like that? And that's the conference room. And I was like, there was lots of like, you know, little bits that they clearly tried to, you know, call back on and stuff like that. And like, there was some random people turn up in Rey Mysterio. I didn't get, maybe I just because I don't know what the Rey Mysterio storyline is, but all these people were just turning up that I've never seen before.
No idea.
The other thing as well, sorry, this is I keep changing it, and like people got thrown off the roof. What happened to them? Are they dead? And in the men's fight, I forget who got. I think like
Alistair Black and Ray got thrown off
the roof. They got thrown over the roof, and like it's just like they're dead now. I'm assuming.
I think they explained it that actually there was another like lower part of the roof below that, but it was only like 10 feet. So they gave the illusion that they were killing them, but ultimately on Raw or somewhere on social media described that no, there was another floor underneath it that they fell on. But if you didn't know any better and you only watched this and then went to bed and never watched WWE again, you'd think Rey Mysterio and Alistair Black are both dead because they even made a fucking splat noise when they supposedly hit the floor. And I was like, oh my God, what are we doing here? Asuka won the women's one. I was surprised because I thought Baszler would win, but and Asuka was kind of just on her own for a lot of it, but nothing really to note about there. The finish of the men's one. Oh no, actually, I have to mention Corbin because Corbin was going to go up with Asuka.
Yeah,
there's two briefcases. They just need one each, men and women, and then they got their title shots. For some reason, Corbin decides to run up to the top of the ladder, and I don't know whether he was mouthing off to Asuka, but she starts kicking him off and knocks him down, and she gets the briefcase. That's Corbin's only chance at getting the briefcase because after that he resorts to murder by throwing people off the roof, and will surely be arrested in the coming days. And then for the men's one, there's Styles and who was it? Was it Styles and Corbin at the top that were fucking battling? They both get it off at the same time. Elias, your favourite, shows up with his little guitar, hits Corbin. He drops the briefcase. AJ Styles was about to celebrate, but he loses his grip on it. It slips out of his hands and falls into the arms of Otis, who's declared the winner and who also started the food fight. You'll be pleased to know. So, what do you make of that as a finish?
I didn't mind it as a finish. Like the finish in itself has its own sort of merits. I guess it's a bit like a little bit like the ladder match, like at WrestleMania where Morrison got the belts. Except everyone knows Otis can't fucking climb a ladder. So if they're going to give it to him, that's going to probably be the only way he's going to be able to get it. So to me, it just felt like, and even with Asuka, like they're the two comedy acts in both of them. I thought, well, if they're not. Why both win it? I don't get it. If once again downgrading the winners to the more comedy acts, and so like it's just a bit like, I don't know. Maybe I as I said, I don't watch enough Raw and stuff like that, but maybe there's a bit of a hot streak with Otis. I feel like
this is supposed to get you excited though. This is their chance.
Yeah, but I know Otis has got this Mandy woman on the go or something like that, and so I'm assuming they're going to be doing something like, "Oh, Mandy, I've got the case for you" and stuff like that. And
he'll end up losing the case to someone.
Who's he going to get? He's Raw as well, isn't he?
No, he's SmackDown.
Oh, he's SmackDown, so he's going to be
after Braun.
Yeah, well, the thing is, he could hold on to it for a year, for all we know, and just come out at WrestleMania, which has happened before, I think.
Yeah, I think you have to defend it, or you can defend the briefcase. I can't remember the exact rules, but yeah, you can hold on to it up until the next one and then cash it in.
But Asuka doesn't have to get the belt now.
Because Becky's, that's it, done.
Yeah, Asuka just gets the belt, doesn't have to fight for it, just becomes champion, Raw champion.
That's not true, is it?
Did you not watch the thing where Becky Lynch? So I watched it, not the Raw, just a little bit of the promo where Becky Lynch comes out and sort of says, "I'm pregnant." Oh, she doesn't say that. She goes,
"Seth's got me at the duff." No,
basically, before she says that, like, I don't know if Asuka knew, but like, obviously Asuka comes out, and when Becky's out there with the briefcase talking, and then Becky goes, "Well, look, actually, what we're going to do is actually what's in the case," and opens the case as the belt, and she says, "You actually get to be the champion." And Asuka, he's a bit of a comedy act, so he just goes around screaming, "Oh, I've got the belt!" And then she comes eventually, and then Becky Lynch goes, "Yeah, you're now going to be the champion, and I'm now going to be a mum." And the reason I think Oscar Mayer broke character a little bit and not known about it was because she was saying some words in English. A part of it feels like a character is that she doesn't really say English at all, and so I felt like she wanted to say congratulations to Becky because that's when she sort of found out. So I don't know, maybe she did know, and she was just a good actor. But
she's the champion now.
She is the champion without having to win. So technically, Becky Lynch walks away undefeated, I guess, which is I guess keeps her mystery alive going, and she can come back, still being the man at some point.
See, should have put that belt on Shayna at WrestleMania. Vince is kicking himself now. He's got an ice cold Oscar who's just got it from. I know she won the Money in the Bank, but not won it. And Becky won't be around for at least a year, so she'll be gone.
Yeah, she doesn't need the money. Seth's going to be bringing it in anyway, so.
No, he's rolling there. They're both laughing at that. Vince fuming, but that's what happens. Well,
it's just a bit of it's just overall that those two, one match, two matches was just a bit. There's a lot of talking points in them. I give them that, but I wouldn't say any. No talking points that I really want to be talking about.
No, I mean it was half an hour long. People were saying it could be up to an hour long, and I was like, oh my god. So again, felt fortunate that it was that short, I guess, but still. Had I not had that expectation, I'd have been sitting there going, does this need to be almost half hour long? Probably not. But that's it. Money in the Bank behind closed doors yields that. Another WWE event in the books. Overall thoughts of WWE Money in the Bank. Is this going to tempt you into being a full-time WWE fan?
Definitely not, unfortunately.
What if it was available on ITV, like Raw, SmackDown? Or would you still be like, no, if this is the payoff that's going to happen every month, I can't be dealing with it?
I would, if it was still on, say, like back in the day when we were kids and it was on Channel 4, I would watch it just for the pure fact to do this podcast, I think, and just to sort of see what's going on, the pay-per-view. I don't know if I could commit to watching a Raw every week, watching a SmackDown every week, watching a Next every week, and then watching a pay-per-view once a month. I just think there's just too much there. Maybe when you're a kid and you're a bit younger and you've got a bit more time on your hands, then I get it. But like later on in life, I think you've got too much other stuff going on, and so unfortunately,
Animal Crossing islands to build.
Exactly. I'm wasting my life on that at the moment. But I think. At the moment, in terms of like time wise, like AEW's got it fine for me. There are 2 hours a week I have to give them, and maybe at the moment up to 20 minutes for a YouTube show, which I don't have to watch, but it's 20 minutes. I can watch it just before I fall asleep or something. So like that, and then the pay-per-views are once every 2 to 3 months, so that's not too big. Like. That sort of style of commitment, it's just aimed at a different audience. Unfortunately, WWE is definitely aimed at a younger generation at the moment, which is fine. It's just that's what the demographics they're aiming for. AEW is aiming for more the sort of what I call the late teens, 20s and 30s. I would say sort of audience at the moment.
I think it was last week's Dynamite. Obviously, all this is in America. Last week's Dynamite got more male 18 to 35 viewers than Raw, although they almost doubled them, or actually over doubled them in like overall viewers. The actual kind of one of the core demographics, or one of the demographics that you would associate with the Attitude Era, ironically, 18 to 35-year-old males, AEW Dynamite beat them, which was a bit of a surprise. Yeah. WWE seem to either have, like you said, a younger audience, but also they always seem to have the over 50s. I guess that's just older wrestling fans that have been watching since the dawn of time, sitting there watching it. Don't like these new pups flipping about, but
it's funny you should say that. I think the stat also came out. I think for the same one you're talking about there, that AEW got more viewers than any not NEX, NXT. Because I think someone boasted about that, and then someone later on, I think, posted that Raw, I think doubled the viewership, more than doubled the viewership than AEW Dynamite, which you would expect. But it's just nice. I guess it's nice to see, there is an audience there for the AEW, and they're actually getting quite decent numbers.
Yeah, so as long as TNT, who are one of the main sources of income and keep them running basically in America, are happy, and that's the main thing. And the fact they got their deal renewed early in the year is a good sign. Lucky as well, because of all this Corona shit kicking in, that would have really made those negotiations 10 times harder. But yeah, it's good to see that. One thing I was surprised about is that they've been, since September, WWE have been pushing NXT as a legitimate third brand. So like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, the three pillars. So we've had them appear at Survivor Series and face off against like the Raw and SmackDown wrestlers. We've had them in the Royal Rumble. So they've been having matches in the Royal Rumble, potentially to win the title there. We've had obviously Charlotte Flair come over to NXT as well. But no representation of the NXT brand on this pay-per-view. So back to developmental, it sounds like, or, feeder type. When you're missing the chance to get because to me that suggests that no one cares about the NXT belt, which frankly they probably don't. Not even Drew does, because he said he'd never been a world champion before, and in fact he has won the NXT title, so he crapped on it inadvertently by saying that. But to me, the third brand myth is dead now. He's gone back to like a challenger / feeder brand, which is fine, but don't tell me otherwise.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, you can look and think the show was only 2.5 hours. They could have easily thrown in an NXT belt match if they wanted to, and they've decided not to. Whether that was conscious or not, you just don't know. Whether some matches pulled out at the last minute or something like that, because the current circumstances. But yeah, it's I don't know. I quite like the idea. If I was to have a brand that big, to have some sort of like feeder leagues is quite nice. Yeah. I think that's a better position for it, and then working their way into the proper brands, the SmackDowns and Raws. I think is a better way to position it. And like every now and then you can just do a little bit of a crossover, because it's nice when you maybe want to push someone or push a couple of people in from NXT to Raw or SmackDown. Don't be bringing it so that people have to watch free brands.
Do you know what the sickening thing is that I have, since November, watched WWE. I've watched Raw, SmackDown, NXT, like up until the new year, and then once all the lockdown happened, I basically binned them all. But NXT is such a better show than Raw and SmackDown. Like, the wrestling is 5 times better. The storylines are much more simplified, and it's just a better product, I think, overall. But it doesn't have the appeal that Raw and SmackDown have to pull in the big numbers. It pulls in, like you said, similar numbers to AEW, but usually a bit lower than that. So it's a shame, because those guys like Adam, there's really, 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 really good wrestlers over there, like Adam Cole, Undisputed Era,
Adam Cole,
Riddle, Bit Breaker, yeah, that's it. They might have if they have a kid, really, Vince will go, right, Adam Cole, impregnate Britt, really screw up AEW for us, just so she wins the belt at some point.
And so I've watched a few, and I just don't know much about NXT, but it's doesn't William Regal look after that or something strange like that?
General manager, that's it. He's like the on-screen general manager and does a lot of backstage stuff, but it's Triple H's baby, really. He sort of runs it, and that's one of the reasons people who are kind of fed up with WWE are like, NXT is actually a good alternative because it's so much different to the main roster, and it is available on the WWE Network, so you could actually watch an episode.
Isn't it an NXT UK as well? I don't know how. There seems to be a couple of brands, so I don't. NXT UK. So do you have to? Is there like an NXT show every week and an NXT UK show every week?
Yeah, I tried to watch the UK stuff because obviously UK, I think, well, that'd be nice, but nah. Ain't up to snuff, that one. But NXT is worth a watch. It was worth a watch. I think without the crowd they suffer as well, but it's definitely, I think it's a good juxtaposition between Raw and SmackDown, just to get that reference point and see how they do things over there. One of the announcements was, and I'll get the date in a minute, was that they're actually going to be doing, NXT do their own little mini pay-per-views called takeovers, which they've been cancelling basically because of the corona, and they're going to be doing a NXT takeover in your house Sunday, June the 7th. So maybe pencil that in if you've still got the network, which I think you
do.
Just about have it. Then that'll be a nice one to watch, actually.
Yeah, I think maybe we can come back and talk about that one. I've got my my WWE Network until the 19th of June, so nice. that falls just nicely.
Yeah, we'll pencil that one in then. Make sure we both watch that. Right, that's Money in the Bank done. Thank you for joining us on this edition, Mr. Paper. I've managed to make it through. I haven't collapsed or lost any blood. Don't think my stitches have come open. No, they seem like they're still in place. So good all round. You bailed out yesterday because of a headache, even though I just suffered from a disgracefully large incision in my abdomen.
Whoa. That isn't how it went down.
Well, that's how the podcast ends, on that cliffhanger. No, I weren't feeling well yesterday either. So it was lucky that we both weren't up for it, because it worked well. It worked better to do it tonight, and we'll get it up and out for the guys. But thank you very much for giving up your time, for not just doing this, but for watching WWE. And we'll be back. So the next episode that you'll be back on will either be in the Royal Rumble 92, perhaps next week, but if not, definitely Double or Nothing the following week. So we've got a couple of things to look forward to, but Double or Nothing is basically a 99% booked in podcast that we'll be doing following that pay-per-view. So look out for that. If not, you will catch me flying solo next week. I'll probably do a preview of Double or Nothing if we don't get Royal Rumble 92 up to you, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, babbling. Thanks so much for your time, and ta-da.
This was a DIMP Digital production.